Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I'm Novita Sari. Today I'm going to give a present about my material, which is analyzing an audience. Analyzing an audience has three parts in this material. The first is listening, the second is analyzing an audience itself, and the third is adapting to your audience. So the first part is listening. Listening has four sub-parts. The first is overcoming barriers to effective listening. When you listen, it requires you to do these several things, such as selecting the message, attending the message, understanding the message, remembering the idea, and then responding what you listened. And this is about the speaker and the listener. The first is information overload. As the speaker, you need to deliver your message clearly. The second is personal concern. So personal concern means that the speaker you need, as the listener, you need to focus on this speaker's message. The third is outside distraction. So as the speaker, you need to control the situation, you need to control the listeners, and then something like that, so you will have the good condition to speech. Next is prejudice. Prejudice means that the use of opening statements to grab the audience attention. And next is listen with your eyes as well with your ears means if you have trouble at understanding the speaker's mouth, you can get close enough and you can see the speaker's mouth. And next is stay on task. This is mean that as the good or as the better listener, you need to be more open-minded. The better listener is the person who can put their own thought aside. Next is you need to monitor your emotional to the message. So don't let the speaker's message close down your mind. Next is be a selfish listener. So you need to find benefit as much as you can from the speaker. Next is listen for major ideas. You need to try to mentally summarize the whole idea from the speech or from the topic. Next is identify your listening style. So you need to be conscious, of course. And next is you need to find what is your goals. Is it for the pleasure or is it for the further information? You need to find that. Next is understanding your listening style. So everyone has their own style at listening, so you need to find yours. The last is become an active listener. So when you become an active listener, you can rephrase or you can repeat the key information from the speaker. We move to the part B, which is listen ethically. So listen ethically means that audience members share responsibility with the speaker, and they are divided into two parts. The first is communicate your expectation and feedback. So communication. So as the listener, you can put the expectation on your speaker. Why is that? It's because maybe you want something. Maybe you expect something from the speaker. For example, you want to know the further information, or you want to get the credible evidence that it is something like that, and you are probably free to expect something like that. And next is demonstrate sensitivity to and tolerance of differences. Means that you, as the listener, we need to be more attentive, and then we need to understand the needs and the goals. The understand needs and the goals. If you have or if you see something different from the speaker, you need to understand that because we are from the different culture, and it is totally okay for them to do that because the different culture itself. And next is improve listening and critical thinking. In this part, critical thinking is the process of listening to evaluate the appropriateness, the value, and the importance of the information that you hear. And they are divided into three parts. The first is separate facts from inferences. What is fakes? Fakes are the information that has been proven true by the direct observation, while the inferences is something that get by the partial information. So the critical thinking, so by separating fakes and inferences is the basic thing at critical thinking, and you need to separate that as wise as you can. The second is evaluate the quality of evidence. So without the credible evidence, it wouldn't be wise for you to agree at speaker's conclusion. So you need to pay more attention at the evidence. Next is evaluate the underlying logic and reasoning. Logic is a formal system of finding the conclusion, while the reasoning is drawing a conclusion. So you need to underline that and evaluate that. And this is the last part from the listening, which is analyze and evaluate speeches. When we evaluate something, we need to know its value and its appropriateness. So which one is effective or which one is not effective, and they are divided into 4 parts. The first is understand criteria for evaluating speeches. So the speech should be more effective, and the speech should be more ethical. The second is identify and analyze rhetorical message, means that the use of symbol to achieve goals. The third is give feedback to others. When you want to comment something or give the comment to the speaker, you need to be more effective, realistic, descriptive, and specific. You need to pay more attention on that. And the last is give feedback to yourself. If you want to give the feedback to yourself, you need to look for and reinforce the skills and speaking abilities, and then you need to evaluate your effectiveness, and then you need to identify of one or two areas for improvement. Yeah, and we move to the second part, which is analyzing your audience. When you analyze your audience, you have several ways to do that. The first is gather your information about your audience by the formal and informal way. The first is by the informal way. When you want to gather the information by informal way, you can ask them through the average age, for example, or you can ask them by the specific place that they live, for example. And the second is gather information formally or informal way, You can ask them through the open-ended question or closed-ended question. So when you give the question and you want to give them the free, or there is no limit at answering the question, you can ask them by the open-ended question. And if you want to, and how about the closed-ended question? Closed-ended question means that when you give the question to the audience, you need to limit the answer. For example, you can ask them by like or dislike, agree or disagree. So it could be like that. And move to the part B, which is analyze audience information. After you have gathered the information by the 2 ways that I mentioned before, you can also examine information about your listeners, and then you can also observe them by the similarities, differences, and then common ground. And the third is demographic audience analysis. You also can observe them by the demographic characteristic, for example, by their age, or by the sexual orientation, by the race, gender, and then educational level, and the last is religious view. And this is the last part from the analyze the audience, which is from the psychological audience analysis. So this part explores an audience attitude toward your topic, purpose, and then the speakers. The first is analyze attitude toward your topic. You can see them if they are interested on your topic or not. And the second is analyze attitude toward you as the speaker. So the evidence that you want to share to them is really, it should be credible. So there will be no one ask about your credibility. The third is situational audience analysis, which is about the time and the place. And the last is analyze your audience after you speak. So after you have given your speech, you can see them by the non-verbal responses, verbal responses, survey responsive, or behavioral responses. You can see them if they are interested or not about the topic that you deliver to them. It is like that, and we move to the part 3, which is adapting to your audience as you speak. So the first is read non-verbal cues. Audience analysis and adaptation do not end when you crafted your speech. So they continue as you delivering your speech. The first is about eye contact. For most North American audience, they give a lot of eye contact. So the more you get the eye contact by the audience, it means that they are interested on your topic. And the next is facial expression. For most Japanese audience people, they are use the expression a lot when you are delivering the speech. And the last is movement. An attentive audience doesn't move much. And next is nonverbal responsiveness, means that an interested audience also responds when encouraged or invited to do so by the speaker. And the last is verbal responsiveness. So audience members may shout out or respond or more quietly express agreement to the express an agreement and disagreement to the people seated next to them. And this is the next is about the response to nonverbal cues. After learning to read your listener, you can use repertoire of behaviors to help you connect with them. And we move to the part C, which is customize your message to your audience. In here, audience prefer message that are adapted just to them. So what are some ways to communicate with your listeners? The first is appropriate use audience members' name to relate information to specific people. The second is refer to the town, city, or community where you are speaking. The third is refer to a significant event. The fourth is refer to a recent or local news event. The fifth is refer to a group organization if you are speaking to an audience of service, religious, political, and anything. The last is find ways to apply facts, statistics, and examples to the people in your audience. And the last is adapt to diverse listeners. Means that audience diversity involves more factors than just ethnic and cultural differences. And your audience should know something about the people who will likely to be present for your talk. Based on your information, you may want to identify a target audience, a specific segment of your audience that you most want to address or influence. And I want to give you the tricks. If your audience seems interested or bored, you can do this. The first is tell them a story, and then use an example to which the audience can relate, or use a personal example, and then remind your listener your message should be of interest to them, and then eliminate some abstract facts and statistics, and then use appropriate humor. And next is make direct references to the audience, and then is invite the audience to participate by asking questions. Next is ask for direct response, and next is speed up the pace of your delivery or pause the dramatic effect. Here is another trick. If your audience seems confused or doesn't seem to understand your point, you can be more redundant, or you can repeat the key points. Or the next is you can phrase your information in another way, or think of an example you can use to illustrate your point. The third is you'll use a visual aid such as a chalkboard or flip chart. And next is, if you have been speaking rapidly, slow your speaking rate. And next is, ask for the feedback. And the last is ask someone in the audience to summarize the key points you are making. I think that's all for me. I hope you are enjoy about the material that I have given for you today. So wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.